Hey everyone, welcome back. On my last video, I got a comment from a conservative-leaning individual who brought up the Twitter files as an example of a violation of the First Amendment. Now, I assume that they're referring to a specific section of the Twitter files where several requests were put in to remove sexually explicit photos of Hunter Biden from Twitter, namely by the Biden family, as well as Donald Trump's Justice Department. Now, when it comes to the Biden family, they really can't violate the First Amendment because they're not a government entity. They have no power to actually force Twitter to do anything. And all the Twitter files show is that they put in a request to say, hey, these photos violate your terms of service. Would you please take them down? Now, when it comes to Donald Trump's Justice Department, they are a government entity, so technically could violate Twitter's First Amendment rights if they had ordered those photos to be taken down. But again, the Twitter files don't show that. They show that a request was put in from the Trump Justice Department saying, hey, this violates your terms and conditions. This looks to be some kind of interference in an election. Would you please take them down? No order. So, again, not a violation of the First Amendment. However, it did bring to mind a couple of recent incidents that might just be violations of the First Amendment. Now, I think we can all agree that when elected officials speak on behalf of their constituents concerning political matters, that should be protected speech under the First Amendment. However, the state governments of Tennessee and Montana don't seem to agree with that idea. In Tennessee, in the aftermath of a mass shooting, 2 African-American legislators were ejected from the state legislature for joining in a student protest. Now, yes, they did violate the rules of decorum, but I hardly think that depriving all of those voters of their elected representatives who were supporting their constituents' views is the appropriate response. And when it comes to the First Amendment, we have a government body seeking retribution against individuals for their political speech. Certainly looks like it could be a violation of the First Amendment. When we go up to Montana, we have a transgender legislator who is banned from even being on the floor simply because of who they are. Now, who you are, how you choose to dress, express your identity, that is a form of speech. And by banning her from doing her job as an elected representative, not only is the state government of Montana depriving voters of their elected representative, they are also censoring that representative's speech. So, again, government body restricting someone's speech purely because they disagree with their politics. Certainly looks like a violation of the First Amendment to me. However, that commenter specifically was talking about politicians threatening a media company. And I have an example of that too. Earlier this year, DirecTV decided that it was no longer going to broadcast Newsmax, which is a conservative media outlet. And the reason that DirecTV gave for this was, during contract negotiations, Newsmax wanted DirecTV to pay Newsmax in order to have the privilege of broadcasting its content. And DirecTV said that's not how cable news works, it's not how cable TV works at all, it's not our business model, so this isn't going to work for us, so long. And they dropped Newsmax from the network. However, in the immediate aftermath of that decision, a bunch of Republican congressmen sent a letter to DirecTV which essentially said, you better put DirecTV back on the air and agree to their demands, or else. And if that's not a threat, I don't know what is. And again, as my commenter said, if you've got a government agency or government officials threatening a media company, it's probably a violation of the First Amendment. However, the award for the highest profile violation of the First Amendment has to go to Ron DeSantis for his ongoing battle with Disney. Now, that whole issue started when Disney decided to take a political position and opposed Ron DeSantis' Don't Say Gay bill. Given that it is a political position and political speech is certainly protected under the First Amendment, Disney should have been fine. However, Ron DeSantis decided that he did not like what Disney had to say, and then he used the power of the Florida state government to punish Disney by stripping away their self-governing status, by appointing his own lackeys as the new governing board, and even threatening to put a state prison next to the Disney amusement parks. I think even at one point during a press conference he said that he wanted to try and get influence over the kinds of movies that Disney made. Now, Disney is suing the Florida government and Ron DeSantis over this being a violation of the First Amendment, as it does certainly appear to be reprisal against Disney for their political speech, and I think they've certainly got some good evidence out there. In his recent book, Ron DeSantis clearly stated that yes, he had gone after Disney for their political views, and as we watch him on his shadow campaign for president, he has repeatedly said that he would have no problem using the federal government as he's using the state government to combat wokeness, which essentially translates to DeSantis will use the powers of the government to silence the speech of anyone that he does not agree with. And not only is that horrifically fascist, but that is a textbook violation of the First Amendment. And given that Disney has some of the best lawyers on the planet, I don't think they're going to have any trouble proving their case in court. The interesting thing about all of these likely First Amendment violations is that they were all perpetrated by Republicans. Republicans control the Tennessee and Montana state legislatures. It was House Republicans that threatened DirecTV, and Ron DeSantis is certainly a Republican. Now, I do find it ironic that a party that prides itself on defending constitutional rights and individual liberties is so comfortable when it comes to attacking private companies for their business decisions, let alone their political stances, and silencing their opposition in government for simply disagreeing with them. Doesn't really sound like a party that's actually committed to protecting freedom of speech, does it? Think about it.